Heroes of Fantasy Football podcast.
Welcome into the show. We are the Heroes of Fantasy Football podcast. That is Chris down below walking in to join us, and we got Joe Capozzi. I'm your host, Matt High. We are 1 week away from the NFL draft, gentlemen. How excited on a scale of 1 to 10 are you guys?
10. Off the charts. This is going to be an exciting class. A lot of exciting quarterbacks.
He's really excited because he has a lot of draft capital in this draft.
Oh, talk about my draft capital. Look at my portfolio. Yeah, I am pumped. This is probably one of the most excited for drafts I've been since the Trevor Lawrence draft. So it's lock and load.
What about you, Chris?
I'm the same. I'm excited. It means we're one step closer to football. My life can continue again. I'm that much closer to fantasy and delving way too much time into something that ultimately probably takes too much time of my life. I can't wait. It's going to be a good time. I can't wait to see all the crazy picks. Can't wait to see the Giants screw it up. It's going to be a great time. It's going to be a great time.
Yeah, the most recent mock I've seen is the Giants trading with the Arizona Cardinals to draft J.J. McCarthy, which I really hope does not happen.
Wait. You're going to trade up to J.J. McCarthy? I feel like you could stay where they are and get J.J.
Sounds like the most Giants thing that we would do. Let's trade up and draft not the best quarterback available at the position.
We're pick number 6, right? We could just draft J.J. McCarthy.
We could probably get him in the second, third.
Nah, I think
don't know. There's a lot of buzz.
I think there's a couple teams that I feel like are also projected to grab him in the first round.
Vikings. There's a lot that are
the Chargers apparently. For some reason.
I doubt it.
I also hope I doubt it. I mean, I'd like to think it wouldn't happen, but who knows?
Harbaugh's just trying to blow smoke to say, hey, if he's there, we could do it. Trade for our pick and give us a bunch of stuff. It's smoke season, so that's what they're gonna do. He's self-regulating the market.
Of course.
Yeah. Nowadays,
as all people must.
Yeah, I mean, most people do that in the stock market. You get thrown in jail, but we could do it free, willy-nilly in the NFL. But hey,
can I short like a player and then get money for it? Yeah, I'll short I'll short Derek Carr or something like that. Yeah, why not? I don't know.
Well, don't worry, we'll get to him. Don't be worried.
Spooky little previews.
Yeah. So, well, I mean, if anything, we found out last episode you like the short guys. So if there's anyone that's going to short someone, it's going to be you.
Oh no!
Welcome to the new world here.
New world.
But welcome to the show, everyone. Happy to be back talking about some draft day changes in dynasty value of these players. There's a lot that it's going to change. There's a lot of draft picks that are going to probably screw with your dynasty rosters, but we're going to do it anyway. So first thing, we have a little bit of news that Joe broke to us. So I'll let you start it off, Joe.
My boy. Well, not my boy. My new boy. My new toy that I traded for Mr. Chris down there and had for almost a full game. Mr. J.K. Dobbins. Traded for him at the beginning of last season. Was super pumped. A lot of buzz going around him. Got hurt the first game. Big sad. Matt made fun of me. But he looks to be fully recovered again. And he is speculated to sign a 1-year deal with the Chargers. I love this position. He reunites with his old teammate Gus. I think Dobbins is better. So I think he should see, as long as he, knock on wood, as long as he stays healthy, I think he will
be very
number
aggressive.
one there. That's how much I need to knock on the wood,
Clearly.
So that's my little bit of news for you. Back over to you, Matt.
You better go out to like the California redwoods and just start knocking on every single tree because you're gonna need it. That man, he needs to show up for fantasy managers because it's been a couple of years since we've been able to see him, and he has so much potential. We just need him to stay healthy and just do what he was drafted to do. So we'll see how that goes. But I agree, it's a good landing spot. because they're going to run the ball like no other team. They're going to be 32nd in pass rate and first in run rate on
And
this.
who's Herbert supposed to throw the ball to?
Exactly.
J.K. Dobbins.
J.K. Dobbins.
Gus Edwards, actually.
He's
No.
gonna throw it to himself.
Ooh.
That's how it's going to be. Or he's going to just. I wonder if they play the Bears this year. He's probably just be like,
Although
Keenan, you're out there
my
somewhere.
boy Josh Palmer, he's still going strong.
He's still there.
Yeah.
Who knows?
Better than
It's going to be.
Butterhands Quentin Johnston.
I don't even think they're butter. I think they're just like concrete at this point.
It just goes right through it.
Yeah. So we'll see. All right. So as we said, we're going to talk about some of these guys whose value will most likely change or could change the most come draft day. So we got decent amount of guys here. There's going to be a lot more, but we'll get into those as the season goes on. We don't even know what's going to go on with the draft. So first guy here, Rachaad White, Tampa Bay Buccaneers. He was drafted in the 3rd round in 2022, 91st overall. Had a really good fantasy year last year, but underlying metrics, rush rate, his rushing efficiency was pretty low. So this is a team that personally I think could draft another running back. I know this year isn't the best year for running backs, but are you guys worried about the Bucs adding any competition and taking away from his role?
No. I think I'm kind of browsing down the list. I think out of the running backs that we have on the list, I feel like he is the most secured on the list to keep his job. I think last year he kind of showed us that he can be that back, and yeah, I don't think they're going to take anyone, or at least anyone of note that's going to threaten his number 1 position. Chris, thoughts?
Yeah, no, I agree. I think there's a lot of combinations here that get to this point. One, despite the rushing efficiency, he still finished 7th overall amongst running backs in the league, and he was still very, very good. He's a solid pass catcher. He is a solid runner when it happens. You also have to remember that offense is very diverse. You got Chris Godwin, Mike Evans, and I imagine that will only probably continue because that's one of their strengths. This isn't a team necessarily that relies fully on one piece going off. It is a combination of a lot, and especially with Baker Mayfield staying and those pieces aligning, it'll probably stay put. I imagine they'll focus on line and defense in the draft. In fact, I have a couple drafts here for the first 4 rounds, and they don't pick any offensive weapons at all within the first 4 rounds. It's a lot of line protection and defensive players. So I don't predict this him at all waning in the coming year at all based off some sort of draft pick, unless there's something crazy happens and then, like, I don't know, the 8th round they draft somebody and for some reason he's insane, but I don't foresee that happening.
Yeah, I mean it's mainly just I think for this year his role is pretty secured. He's back with Derek. Not Derek Carr. I got him
He's on your mind.
Yeah, he's on my mind. It's more of a nightmare for me. But yeah, no, he's got Baker, who's the second dump off king. So I think this year his baseline will be okay. I don't know if I can slot him in as a top 5 running back, maybe top 12. We'll see.
I would argue like top 10 at best, top 15 at worst. He's somewhere in that range, I feel like. Definitely not top 5 range.
High end RB2, low end RB1. That's probably where he's going to fall in. But next guy here is someone. Let me start off by saying this is someone I should be off on because of everything I've said about running backs and draft capital. But I'm in. I know it's probably bad for me, but I'm in. Kyren Williams.
It's bad when the stats guy is ignoring the stats.
Exactly. But that should also say a lot that I'm ignoring the stats because of how involved I am in looking at those. But Kyren Williams on the Rams, 5th round pick, 164th overall back in 2022, injured year 1. Cam Akers was there. He was the guy. We were already drafting him, super, super excited. And he was gone after a few weeks. And it was a Kyron Williams show. Now, the reason I'm in is because of Sean McVay. When he likes a running back, you have the job. That's it. They're not giving the job away. They tried with Cam Akers. And even when he was failing, they were still trying because he was the best one at that point. But then they moved on from him. Now, Kyron Williams on this offense, not a lot has changed. The defense got worse, so that could kind of play into it a little bit. But for Kyron Williams, I think I'm still all in, full steam ahead. I know you guys probably differ, so let's hear the opposite side of that.
I'll go first. Mostly because I don't necessarily disagree. I don't. Once again, this goes back to Joe's point. There isn't really a lot of insane running back capital within the draft, and he finished really well. He had a fantastic season, and he missed 4 games, and he still finished within the top 10. That's insane. That's insane. Do I feel like he'll have the same presence again week in, week out? No, I have a feeling that they'll diversify his role a little bit with already people on the team. I don't think the draft will do anything to decrease his value. I think it'll actually be what's already there. Do I think the other options are great? No, I believe it's Zach Evans and Ronnie Rivers. Yeah, I believe. I think, is Zach Evans still on that team? He is, right?
Yeah, he was drafted last year.
Okay. Yeah. I don't think they'll be super there, but I also, they'll decrease the load a little bit. It'll make it so he has more longevity within this team. I feel like they are going to take advantage of the fact that they have a very, very diversified offense now. I don't anticipate the draft really tanking him. What about you, Joe? What do you think?
I'm afraid of Kyron Williams. That's why I traded him to Matt. Any running back with 5th round or later draft capital is not for me. I look at last year. I was looking to trade heavily for Damian Pierce, and Steve's like, "Oh no, he's the bell cow. He's the bell cow." He was the bell cow. He had an amazing season, rookie season. Then look at the next year. He was nothing, almost nothing.
And now look at now.
I think
behind Joe Mixon.
Yeah, I think the same exact thing's going to happen with Kyron Williams. He's a smaller back with late draft capital. Nothing you can be concrete with. So I'd sell him at his high before it's too late, personally. But I don't think the drafts might affect him too much. But you never know. They could take a running back, and there goes his value. It's even lower now. So
yeah, I mean, for his value to change to the point where I won't be in is if they take a day 2 running back, which I don't see them doing. They have other needs, especially with the Aaron Donald retiring. He scored 15 touchdowns last season, and he only CMC was better than him in points per game for fantasy points per game. So I don't see him repeating that, but we also can't count that out. I mean, we did have Todd Gurley in that system as well, and he did pretty good for a couple seasons until he kind of went bye-bye. But it's more just I'm betting on talent and the coaching mindset of the Rams. That's where I know I should. It's going to be bad for my health this year, being in on Kyron Williams, most likely. Like I know that bet is at minus 400. But I'm still taking that shot because I think we could get a slight repeat season. Because for every late round pick that you should drop off on, you have a Chris Carson, you have an Isaiah Pacheco, who just fit the role. So that's where I'm viewing Kyron Williams for next season. But speaking of Isaiah Pacheco, he's our next guy who. He is a 7th round pick, 251st overall back in 2022. We're going to group this in with the Kansas City Chiefs as a whole because of the Rashee Rice situation.
I
was
want to
clocked.
clarify just the wide receivers and
Yes.
Pacheco. I just want to clarify that.
For the most part, I mean, that's basically the whole team.
I just want to make
Pat
sure
Mahomes,
we're
Kelsey,
not
that's it.
trying to say that Travis Kelsey is going to get replaced or something like that. Probably not. Next year maybe. Not this upcoming year.
Exactly. Yes.
Yeah. I just want to clarify.
So I know, Joe, you were reading something before. Why don't you dive into that quick?
Yeah, I saw an article that the defense attorney is definitely talking that there's definitely possible jail time on the table for Mr. Rice from his actions in that. I think he has an assault charge, and a couple other things with that car accident and stuff. So not looking good. Definitely might be missing some time especially if he's in jail. He'll definitely be missing time. So that puts his whole career in jeopardy. And I'd be, if you're other Chiefs wide receiver owners, happy, I guess. And as a Rice owner, extremely sad. I don't see them not drafting a wide receiver because I can't even really tell you much outside of Rice. I couldn't Kadarius Toney because I hate him, but outside of
Yeah.
them, you really don't have any notable names at wide receiver personally. So I see them drafting a wide receiver in this draft, which has plenty of talent there. So I don't see them leaving the draft without a wide receiver, and I'd be very happy to draft that wide receiver. In terms of Pacheco, I don't think I wouldn't be too worried with Pacheco. I was worried last year, and that's why I traded him to Chris. But having 2 years in a row where he is like the guy, I wouldn't be too worried with Pacheco, especially after winning a Super Bowl with him. So
Yeah, I think I agree with that. The whole Kansas City wide receiver room, we've been kind of talking about that. It's been the storyline ever since Tyreek Hill left, pretty much, where who's going to step up, and it doesn't really matter because they just won a Super Bowl. They're second in a row, so it's just one of those things where they just find a way. It might not be any specific guy; it might just be all of them. They have one
I
good
forgot
play.
they got Hollywood Brown now.
Yes,
They do.
yeah. So he's the biggest
I'm very
benefactor,
happy
most
about.
likely.
I'm very
Yeah.
happy about that.
Definitely, he's a definite benefiter of the Rice situation. So
Yes. So I don't know if there's anything else you guys want to add on the Kansas City Chiefs. Go ahead, Chris.
Yeah, I wanted to be like I said on the other side here. I 100% think that they will walk away with a wide receiver. I would not be surprised if they also walk away with a running back of sorts. I'm not saying that Pacheco will probably end up leaving, but in terms of a future outlook, because this was a seventh round pick for them, right? And they're back the backfield isn't entirely like great. They got Pacheco and CH. That's about it. There isn't really anyone else there that's like really great. It wouldn't surprise me if there was a draft pick in a later round to pick up someone there, which could affect him in the future. I don't anticipate it this year, but like a couple years down the line, there could be a wane in his efficiency.
Agreed. Agreed. All right, next guy here, and this is a situation that could get better. The other guys are potentially worse. Bryce Young of the Carolina Panthers, last year's first overall draft pick. Last year, he was throwing to Adam Thielen, Jonathan Mingo, and some dudes. None of them could separate. Adam Thielen showed his age as the season progressed. You know, he had a fun little stretch, and then it sadly came to an end. They just traded for Deontay Johnson, and they're in a good position in the draft this year to basically pick up another wide receiver. This wide receiver class is pretty loaded. As far probably more than past couple seasons. So I think this is where they're going to be very specific on which guy they are drafting. And that could really help them out because last season he had a pretty bad coach, I think we would say. And now was it Canales over there now? I think is coming from Tampa Bay, and look what they did last year. They surprised some people. Baker had a resurgence, so I think that could definitely happen. I think they're putting the right people in place on the Panthers. Are you checking that, Chris? Make sure I'm not. Spearman.
Nope, you are correct.
Good,
That's all I'm
perfect.
checking for. I was actually looking at something else. You're good.
Gotcha. So having Deontay Johnson is a huge signing for me because one thing that Deontay Johnson does very, very well is separate from defenders. Bryce Young didn't have anyone open that he could throw to. So I'm not putting all the blame on him. I mean, he deserves some of the blame. When you play that bad, that it's partly you. But I'm not ready to put all of it on him. Do you guys agree? What do you guys think about Bryce Young?
I think he's going to do fine. I don't think he did. I mean, obviously they didn't do well last year, but I think if you look at the tools that were around him, he got put into a hard situation. So I think getting better weapons for him, he really has a year to prove himself, and I think he'll do okay, hopefully. But yeah, that's how I feel. Draft only going up with them drafting a wide receiver.
Damn.
Real quick, for what's the fantasy ceiling? Where do you see him? What's his ceiling?
In terms of QB rankings,
Yeah, like fantasy year finish. Is he top 12 quarterback? Is his ceiling lower? What do you guys think?
I think lower than 12, maybe top 20.
I was
I'll give
thinking
it-
a decent QB2 for a super flex league. QB2.
You think? Like I thought you meant like
Quarterback
quarterback 2 overall. I'm like,
No,
Jesus, dude.
no.
I'm gonna
Jesus.
I'm gonna go honestly. Here's what I'll go ceiling. Ceiling, I'll say top 12. Anywhere between top 15 and top 12, I'll say. I'll have faith. I'll have faith that because there was a lot more wrong than just weapons. I think they had the second worst line in the league, right? Any pick that affects the wide receiver room or any offensive like player, right, that can catch the ball, as well as improving the line, will only benefit Bryce Young, in my opinion. That's all I'm gonna have to say on that topic. I feel like it goes up from there. If they mess that up, that's on them and not on him.
I think he's kind of in a similar situation as Kenny Pickett. He's in a little better situation that he has that first overall draft pick capital to him, where Kenny was a later first round one pick. But like Kenny didn't do well. They gave him more weapons and stuff. He had another shot, didn't do well again, and look what they moved on from him. I think Bryce Young might have a little more leeway because he was a number one overall. But then again, look at Zach Wilson. He was what, number 3 overall or something like that.
Number 2.
Number 2 overall,
yeah.
and now he is a glorified backup. So I think Bryce Young needs to, after this, especially depending on what they draft, really play better football this year. And if he does not, I could see him out the door. So
Yeah, I kind of view it similar to Trevor Lawrence's rookie season, where the team was just abysmal. Things were not set up the correct way, and he was dropped into a really bad situation. So I'm not giving it, you didn't really give it a full write-off, but it was kind of like, all right, I can make an argument that it wasn't fully him. So that's kind of where it's going to come down to which guy they draft. How aggressive are they to prepare him for this season? Because if they do what they did last year and just basically say, it's fine, then he's going to be out the door. He's going to be the next Trey Lance, where he's bouncing around and no one wants him. So, all right, next guy here, we're going to group some Bengals together too. First thing, we're going to start off with T. Higgins. Most recent news was that he is planning on playing for the Bengals in 2024. Now, could this be a draft day trade? I'm not sure. What do you guys think? Have you heard any buzz on that?
I haven't personally, but I could see it. I mean, personally, did anyone hear about the AJ Brown trade before it happened? I don't think so. That was pretty spontaneous, I think. So it could very well happen. Honestly, after that trade occurred, all those doors are open for guys that are ending, close to the ending term on their contracts. I could definitely see it.
yeah, I could see them moving on from him. I mean, he gets hurt all the time anyway, so
We do have a professional
man.
T. Higgins hater.
that's
Yeah,
me.
we do.
I
Yep.
actually think they're going to draft a wide receiver anyway. So I
I think they have to.
Yeah.
Whether you have Higgins or not, you need someone.
I feel
you
like they're
can't
going to
just.
draft. They're definitely going to draft a wide receiver. And that's going to hurt T. Higgins. I think no matter what happens, if he stays.
See, I'm kind of on the other side. I think T. Higgins has proven enough to that team. It's just this team is in a situation where they have to pay Joe Burrow and they have to pay Jamar Chase, so they don't have money to pay the other guy. And that's it's business. It's nothing to do with talent. It's just the nature of the game.
Let me interrupt really fast. Joe, Mr. T. Higgins hater McGee, can you elaborate? Do you think that's a fair point here, or is it still hate T. Higgins?
Listen, I think he's a good I think he's a good player.
Whoa!
one,
Progress. Okay.
I think he's a good player, but I've yet to see him finish a season healthy.
Okay.
Every game I watch of him, he makes like some good plays. I'm like, okay, he's decent. He's young, and then he gets hurt. I'm like, okay, he is injury prone. So
You could put that label on a lot of people, though. I don't want to go too crazy in saying that, because how often do people miss games during the season? It happens a lot. So you put him on another team as the number one wide receiver. I think that would be good for him. Playing alongside Jamar Chase isn't bad, but it also kind of lowers his potential upside because even though Joe Burrow likes to sling it, it's usually going in the direction of Jamar Chase. But either way, I mean, I think this is probably going to be the last year T. Higgins is on the Bengals. I don't see them re-signing him next year just because of how much they're going to have to pay the other guys. He's going to be kind of forced out, unfortunately.
I'm
But
surprised
I think he
Higgins
lands
traded
somewhere
already.
That's why I'm feeling
Yeah.
a draft day trade. I have another one that I want to run by you guys when we get to them.
Sorry, I just wanted to, because we didn't really talk about, we just kind of stuck to T. Higgins. Chase Brown, I got to be honest with you, I don't know if they're going to really draft a running back, so he actually might be saved. I think there's a lot of other holes they need to fill before they draft the running back. So if you're a Chase Brown lover, he might be good. Isn't Chris Evans on that team, right?
they got Zach Moss
Yes.
now.
Oh, they do have Zach Moss. You're right. One of those two, they'll probably be good. You're probably going to be okay. I don't know who. I really don't, but I don't think they're going to draft anybody. So you're going to play that coin flip of who's going to be the starter, or if they're going to do a 50-50.
This is going to be the backfield that in 2024 redraft leagues, I'm just going to take whoever goes later because they're not going to cost a lot. And you're probably going to be wrong no matter which guy you draft. I can see this being a 50-50 split, right down the gate. So Zach Moss doesn't scare me. I know he did really well on the Colts last year, to some people's annoyance. But he's on his fourth team now in a couple years. So guys that just bounce around the league, they're not names I'm nervous about if I have the other guy. So that's all I'm gonna say there. And Chase Brown is nothing special, but it's a good offense that has scoring opportunities. So one of these guys could be pretty relevant. I don't know if they're going to draft, if there's any running back in this class that would make it to a point where they would draft and that would change that. They're probably going to be drafting a guy next year, most likely. Next guy here, I wanted to throw this one in here. Not necessarily that I'm super nervous, but kind of the coach speak it's been happening for a while and starting to kind of creep into my mind. Travis Etienne on the Jaguars. Now, Doug Peterson has been saying he wants another guy to step up so they don't have to use Etienne as much. Now, that could just be an indictment on the other guys, but he's said it a couple times now. So are you guys buying into that they could be a team that tries to be a little bit more aggressive than some others to draft one of these running backs. Again, I don't think it's going to be a day 2 guy, but Peterson's track record with running backs is he likes to have 2 guys, a 2-headed monster at least. ETN last year finished well for fantasy. I believe he was RB6, but it was a tale of 2 halves and dominated by mostly touchdowns. He had 3 2+ touchdown games in a row that kind of carried his fantasy value, and then the rest of the season he was kind of non-existent to a degree. Are you guys buying in any nerves on Travis Etienne at all?
Not really. I think he's still definitely my top 5 dynasty running backs. So I wouldn't be too worried. And they have Tank Bigsby, who, as Matt knows, is very high, and he tries to trade him. So
I don't remember the last time I sent a trade for Tank Bigsby. It was last season. I was trying to buy on the hype, but yeah, no. I mean, he kind of fell on his face and didn't really do too much. They re-signed Dearness Johnson, so I just heard a couple rumors that some people thinking that it could be one of these teams that surprises us and goes kind of like the Seahawks did when they had Ken Walker, who was great, and they're like, oh, we also need this guy, and did really nothing. But it was the action and the speak and the words they use that kind of had me thinking it's a possibility. I mean, it's the NFL. It's here today, gone tomorrow. Anything to add, Chris?
Yeah, a couple of small things. One, he actually finished RB3 in our league. 2, I don't think they'll draft a running back. I'm gonna hope they develop the ones they already have, like Tank Bigsby. And 3, I actually think that's a good thing for him. Not only for a fantasy like this year, but like also a dynasty perspective. Less chances of him getting hurt in a very volatile position. I know that like it's gonna suck because that means he's probably not gonna reach that ceiling again that he had this year. Sure, but he's still probably gonna be in like the top 6 running backs. Like he's really good. And I feel like they'll focus on some other things to really improve him in the draft. I actually feel like in this draft, his value might go up in terms of not only this season, but long term. I'm really, really hoping that they improve on the line so he has more room to run. They get some more perhaps offensive power, perhaps through free agency, pick up some other random guy. I mean, they did that with Christian Kirk. No one knew who Christian Kirk was, and then all of a sudden they picked him up, and he's all of a sudden insane. So this is a team that can definitely bring out players to a certain potential that you wouldn't expect them. And I'm truthfully hoping that that's going to help Etienne in the long run.
He's also in a contract year this year too, so
True.
that sometimes that helps. They give him a look. A team can look at it where, all right, we can just use you and abuse you this year because we don't have to re-sign you. But if you get hurt and it's it's okay. We'll just draft another guy. It's really sad what's happening to running backs. They get just used and abused and thrown away, which really sucks. But next guy here, Kyler Murray. They're in a perfect position to draft one of the top wide receiver prospects in the draft this year at pick number 4. If they hold the pick, I would assume they're taking Marvin Harrison. I have seen a few things we talked about in the wide receiver show where Malik Neighbors is one of the guys that gets jumbled in there too. Either way, both are good. I think that's really good for Kyler Murray. Came back last season, finished pretty good. I think getting an alpha wide receiver now that Hopkins is gone, as well as Marquise Brown is gone.
Yeah.
So I think it's an obvious need. It just depends on how aggressive they are. If they're gonna try to get a haul for pick number 4, get one of these desperate teams. Hopefully not the Giants. Please not the Giants. To trade up with them. But we'll see.
A trade in the 2024 draft. The Giants trade pick number 6 in 2024 and their second round pick and their third and the first for next year. That'd be the Giants trade. I gotta be honest with you. But no, short and simple. as long as they draft wide receiver, this is positive for him. 100%. Joe, what do you think?
Yeah, definitely value up for Murray, 100%.
Now, on the other side of the ball here, well, not the other side of the ball, but on the offense, we have Trey McBride, where last season he skyrocketed up Dynasty tight end rankings. Last I checked today, he was his Dynasty ranking is actually tight end number 2. It's Laporta, then him. Pretty significant rise for a tight end. And with that pick, he's going to probably get competition, whether it's Marvin Harrison Jr., Malik Neighbors, Rome Odunze, whoever. He's going to have competition in this offense. Now, being a tight end, do you care at all in that offense? The way they used him last year, do you think he repeats, or is this a time to sell him?
I didn't even know he was valued that high. I literally had to look it up because I didn't believe you that he was valued number 2. That's
awesome.
That's crazy.
That's awesome. I didn't even believe you, he says.
That's crazy.
I won't take offense to that.
I guess in a dynasty perspective because he's young, but like
exactly, yeah, that's
but
what
but tight ends play for a long time, and I'd much rather have T.J. Hawkinson than Trey McBride. But
I think it's the injury for Hawkinson right now that has people down a little bit. I mean, he might not be ready for week 1 this year. So if that's the case,
I would also like to. Oh, sorry. Finish.
No, good. That was it.
I was just going to say that probably those ratings are probably very volatile, and I would also say that most likely the team matters. I mean, Hawkinson's on the Vikings with Addison and Jefferson
and no quarterback.
Targets. Yeah, exactly. Like that probably affects them a lot. Whereas Trey McBride is the only receiving option currently on the Cardinals. It sucks that he's probably going to lose that, but as personally, if you don't have either like at this point, it's Travis Kelce and Sam Laporta, and I would say probably T.J. Hawkinson to some extent, but like
no Andrews.
Oh no, you're right. I forgot about Andrews. You're completely right. There's like 4 tight ends that really matter, and no, not yet. At least we'll see. It depends on situation, but really, you're just hoping that every now and then they score a bunch of points half the time, right? It's an advantage to get a good tight end, but not a lot of people get that, and you're playing matchups week in and week out. I think the good part is Trey McBride will probably not be falling to that caliber. I feel like he'll still stay there. He'll be consistent, just not getting you that same ceiling anymore, which is, you got that 1 year, having a dynasty team, awesome. I hope it was worth it. But I wouldn't be panicking. He'll still be fine. He'll be better than most of the other tight ends you could possibly get.
Yeah, he was getting like 9+ targets a game last year. I don't see that happening if they draft someone like Marvin Harrison Jr. or Malik Neighbors. But 5 to 6 for 5 to 7 targets a game, I think it's still in the realm of possibilities. And he might not need all those targets. He's pretty elusive with the ball in his hands. He's got good hands to begin with. And I think that team is going to use him similar to the way he was, because you can create mismatches in the open field. And Kyler Murray scrambles. He knows how to extend the play, lets him shake loose. You get a big chunk play. I think I'm going to be in on Trey McBride no matter who they draft, whether they do draft one of these top guys or they draft no one, because then he's probably going to be priced down to the point where I'm not going to have him in any league, which will be unfortunate. So I kind of hope they draft one of these big guys, because I'll have him everywhere then. But I think he's going to be safe no matter what happens. So I'm a big believer in Trey McBride after what I saw last year. So we'll have to wait and see how that plays out. But next guy here, we got Javonte Williams on the Denver Broncos. This one's kind of self-explanatory. Jaleel McLaughlin's there. Sean Payton really likes him, handpicked him in the draft last year. And that team is going through some growing pains. They kicked Russell Wilson to the curb and still have to pay him. And this team Javonte Williams was another one. Had a couple injuries early in his career and really good pass catcher, but it's just things have not been running very smooth in Denver. So how much do we kind of view him going into next season or Dynasty? Like, is this kind of the last hurrah, or has that ship kind of sailed? We've seen what he's done, and we don't see the upside. What do you guys think of Javante?
I'm gonna be really fast. I feel like his time in Denver is very close to being done. I don't like him in Denver. I almost feel weird, even like he's had the injuries early on. It's weird. I feel like he has a chance in Dynasty in the future on a different team, but I feel like the Broncos country, not ride, not for him at least. Yeah, I feel like no matter what happens in the draft, he's going to be out the door at some point here. But I feel like his career has a chance to rebound. I'm hoping. He's only 23. He's not that old. There's a very good possibility he comes back. But that's all I'll say on that. Joe, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, he's a good player. Just the injuries are unfortunate, and then now you have Jaleel that's also nipping at his heels for touches and had a very good rookie year. I think he had 5.4 yards per carry, which is pretty good for a rookie. So that definitely doesn't help his stock at all. Um, but if we're talking in terms of the draft, I don't think they take a running back this year with at least they have Jaleel in case he does go down. So I don't think the draft will affect his stock, but I would be worried with him.
The thing I see happening in the draft is the Broncos have been linked to Bo Nix a lot. And right now, the only quarterback they have on that roster is Jarrett Stidham, who not that great. So it's either they get a quarterback like Bo Nix, and I think his value goes up if it is Bo Nix, because that dude likes to throw as close to the line of scrimmage as he possibly can. Everything we saw was pretty close. Under, I believe it was 7 yards past the line of scrimmage. That was his ADOT. That would really help. I could see Javante having one of these, 90 plus target seasons just because of the quarterback that's under center, because that's the way he likes to play. I don't know who's going to come out if they're even going to get Bo Nix. I've seen people think he's a second rounder. I've seen people say, oh, they're going to draft him at their pick. I believe it's at 11. They might have to reach for a guy just because of the situation they're in. We might say, oh, yeah, I didn't see much that he wanted, or the fantasy industry as a whole, even NFL community. But when you're pushed up against the wall, you got to make some sort of decision. It's a lose-lose no matter what you have. You either whiff on a guy, or you trade up, or you use high capital to get a guy who may or may not work out. So that's a situation where I see Javante, unfortunately, getting the short end of that stick, whether they do that or they don't. It's going to be based on who's throwing the ball in Denver. So next guy here, we got Terry McLaurin. This one, he should hopefully get a quarterback. Do you guys think it's going to be Jaden Daniels or Drake May? Those are the two names that have been thrown out the most. Any preference for Terry McLaurin specifically for those guys?
I think for him, you obviously would want Drake May. Not saying Jaden Daniels is bad, but he also has that rushing aspect that takes away from passes where Drake May is more of a passer than a rusher. So I'd obviously want Drake May, but it all depends who falls to them too. You can't really predict that. So,
well, they have the second overall pick, so it'll be one of them. They get to make that decision. I don't envy them, because I personally
think they do go Jaden Daniels, but I'd rather them. As a Terry McLaurin owner, I would rather have Drake May behind the helm.
What about you,
think
Chris?
I'm on the Jaden Daniels train too, in terms of like who they're gonna pick. I feel like that's just the choice because of that rushing aspect. I feel like no matter who they get, it's probably gonna help his stock. The issue is that I don't anticipate it ever getting to the ceiling ever again because of Dotson on the team. personally. I feel like there is a world where he starts to eclipse McLaurin in the wide receiver one role in the near future. I feel like he'll still be serviceable. He'll still be fine, but you're not looking at this consistent wide receiver. I mean, he wasn't last year. I think he finished like 30th amongst wide receivers. Granted, there were quarterback troubles, of course. Things happened, but I'm not anticipating a top 10 performance.
I kind of view Terry McLaurin as the new DJ Moore, where he's very, very talented. If only he had good quarterback play. And unfortunately, I don't know if we're ever going to get that by the time. I mean, who knows what's going to go on. But I agree with you, Joe. I think Drake May would be the best for him specifically, just because I think Drake May offers more through his arms than Jaden Daniels, as well as, they're overall, the offense might run better if it is Jaden Daniels because it's another aspect of the game that opposing defenses have to worry about, which could open things up a little bit. But I personally think Drake May is going to be pretty good. I know some people are poking holes in this game right now, similar to how everyone was poking holes in CJ Stroud's game. I'm not saying he's going to do the same thing, but that's kind of the same narrative as same feel as what it was last year. So we'll kind of have to wait and see. He's probably going 2 or 3, whoever. It depends on where it goes. But
you can't trust any of this pre-draft nonsense. They said Jamar Chase had butter hands, and
yeah, he couldn't catch the ball. That was fun.
Look at him now. So
yeah, it's fun. It's always fun listening to people talk about like, oh, this guy can't do this guy can't do that. And then you watch him, it's like, did you watch the same thing that everyone in the world did? Because things aren't mathing. All right, next guy here. And this is where we were going to talk about my nemesis.
We've changed nemesis. He went from Arthur Smith to this guy.
I only had to deal with Arthur Smith for one season. I'm going to have to deal with this this guy throwing to this guy for another season. Chris Olave on the New Orleans Saints. Could get more competition in the draft this year. Should they draft another wide receiver, which they probably should. And more importantly, Derek Carr sucks at football. That's the main takeaway I want everyone to hear, because he frustrated the hell out of me last year. You watch him throw perfect dimes to Rashid Shaheed, and Chris Olave is running open breakaway, and he overthrows him by like 20 yards, and then blames Chris Olave. And not to mention as well,
it is his fault, bro.
Yeah. Why didn't you run faster than a gazelle, a cheetah? Yeah, it's his fault. But also, Derek Carr likes to throw to this other guy, Alvin Kamara, 20 times a game, because why not? That's the way the offense is.
Alvin Kamara,
hit. He's open somewhere. So you guys can take over before I say anything too mean about Mr. Carr.
Yeah, I'll get us started here. I'll be short. Unfortunately, I only see it going down. I feel like they're going to draft a receiver. I don't think it's going to be. I think they have their first. I don't think. No, they do have their second actually. They do. Now that I think about it, yeah. I think they'll draft a receiver in the second round. My guess. That's what I'm going to go with. I don't know who, but that's where I'm going to go with. And I don't know if it's going to immediately overtake Chris Olave, but I have a weird, unfortunate feeling that it is going to start impeding. And if things don't turn around and the chemistry isn't there, then it's going to eventually completely overtake.
Yeah, they have draft pick number 14. Then they go to 45 from the Broncos, and then they don't pick until round 5. So,
gotcha. Yeah, I knew they did a lot of trading stuff. I had forgotten which picks were gone. For some reason, I was thinking that they had the third and not second. But what do you think, Joe?
It's tough. I mean, we obviously Derek Carr didn't have the year that we wanted him to have. But then again, we got to look. look at his years when he had what's his face, Devontae Adams. He did way better that year. Do I think maybe that's just a shot at Chris Olave that he's not as good as Devontae Adams? But I don't know. I don't know how I feel about Carr. I wouldn't be excited to have him as one of my 2 quarterbacks, but it's also still better than a lot of these other quarterbacks that like Daniel Jones. That who knows what's happening with him. I don't know. That's how I feel. I'm
Yeah, I
thoughtless.
mean, going to Derek Carr for a second, like he can be really bad and still stick with his job. So like I don't think as far as that goes, which really sucks for Chris Olave. Hopefully they go on the same page this year because Chris Olave is just too talented of a wide receiver to not be utilized in the way that he should be. And it just it doesn't make sense that you can throw to one dude but you can't throw to the other guy, and especially someone who has more talent. And now Rashid Shaheed is pretty talented too, but I don't think anyone would compare him to Chris Olave and say, yeah, that guy's better. First round draft capital versus I think he was like 4th or 5th round for Shaheed. I forget off the top of my head, but it could get worse before it gets better for Olave. I think he's probably not going to be a Saint. It's probably leaning towards that, but it also depends on what they do at the quarterback position next season, because I think Derek Carr's this should be his last year, I believe. I don't think it was or they can get out of his contract, I believe.
Yeah,
I
something
think they
like
signed
that.
a 3-year
Yeah.
deal and kind of front loaded it like they usually do. There's an out, I believe, after this year. So things could change pretty drastically on that team, and we'll have to wait and see. Another guy I wanted to bring up is Josh Allen. Now, he just lost Stephon Diggs. He lost Gabriel Davis. It's Khalil Shakir and Curtis Samuel. That is his wide receiver room right now. I know we kind of talked about at the top of the show Justin Herbert, who is he going to throw the ball to? Quentin Johnston and Josh Palmer. Do you guys think it's fair that we knock Justin Herbert for not having weapons, but we still think that Josh Allen, number 1 fantasy quarterback?
In the defense of the Josh Allen thing, the Stephon Diggs thing did just happen, and it seemed that the Chargers offloaded almost everything immediately. Like in this case, right, they got rid of 2. Like it seemed like Austin Eckler went away, Keenan Allen is gone, Mike Williams is gone. It just looked funnier the way it happened. They got a new coach and everything. I don't think it's like any different, to be quite honest with you. I think that it's just funnier the way it happened with the Chargers, in my opinion. I don't know if Joe, but Joe, it looks like Joe agrees with me to some extent here. That was definitely very funny.
Yeah, I think they're in similar boats where they lost both their top 2 wide receivers. The only difference I have with Josh Allen is he does have, I think, much more rushing upside than Herbert does. So I think he's a little more of safer ceiling. It's almost like a Patrick Mahomes where like it doesn't matter who's on the field, he's gonna throw it and do well. It's like it doesn't matter who's on the field with Josh Allen, he can still run the ball and get you fantasy points. Type of view, but yeah, they're in very similar boats. I think I would trust more in the Bills offense just because they have I feel more weapons. I mean, you at least have they at least still have the running backs. Although the Chargers just got Josh J.K. Dobbins, so who knows? But
They're going to
yeah,
draft Blake Corum too. It's going to be just a giant mess over in LA.
they're definitely gonna draft a wide receiver. I feel like, right? I mean, like
I think these teams
mean,
have to, right?
Yeah, 100%.
Both
They're definitely gonna have
do.
to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you're
I
telling me
think
you're going into this year with only Khalil Shakir and Curtis Samuel,
Hey,
like
don't you talk bad about Khalil
they could
Shakir.
draft 2.
no,
They could draft 2 wide
they-
receivers.
they could draft 3. They have the picks. I know, right? They're going to draft someone. It depends on, are they going to be super aggressive and go after one of these top guys, like try to get like a Roma Dunze or something, trade up with the Bears maybe. I was kind of thinking maybe let's do a trade with the Giants. We'll move back a little bit, recoup
What are we
some
gonna
draft
give
capital,
That
but who knows? We'll see.
that
What the
Khalil
hell?
Shakir trade looks pretty good right now, huh?
him?
PJ
Shakir,
PJ Walker in a third.
Whoa!
Which
Yeah,
he
well,
has
the
already
person
dropped. He already dropped PJ Walker. So just
well,
Woof.
he got like one game out of him. So yeah, that was. There's some people in Dynasty that you can kind of not take
oh, to
advantage
be
of,
fair, I
but
thought he would play more
situations.
than I
Yeah.
thought. I didn't think they were going to name what's his name over PJ Walker. So
Dorian Thompson Robinson.
yeah, I
Yeah.
did not see that coming.
Yeah. But I just wanted to bring it up because I know a lot of people are saying, "Oh, well, Josh Allen's QB1. It doesn't matter. I don't care who he's got to throw the ball to." But like the same situation's happening on another team, and we're just like saying, "Oh no, he's dead." Like it's not going to
I'll
come back.
speak to that. Actually, it's just a little unrelated, obviously, but I understand where they're all coming from with like the whole. He has produced decent. In fact, I'm looking up right now actually while I'm talking. But the interceptions kind of scare me a little bit. And now that you don't have Stephon Diggs, I totally understand you have this rushing upside. Like so in our league he finished QB1, right? Um, and he had Stephon Diggs from Georgia. He had like the team. He had Gabe Davis, right? And you're losing all of that, right? Is the change in system going to make things a little more complicated? I'm looking at everything here, right? There are exactly 3 games in which he did not have an interception. So he had no, and he had 3 games in which he had more than 1 interception. So they were just kind of tallying up for a decent amount of time. But will that change now that his 2 really good receivers, who in all honesty were really good in terms of contested catching, does that change now because they're gone? I don't know.
Could now this is where I was saving that. I have an idea for a draft day trade that could happen. What would you guys do if it was Brandon Ayuk traded to the Bills on draft day? What would that do? Because I think it could get done. Out of
I feel like I'd
conference,
be higher on Josh Allen personally. I think, yeah.
QB 0,
Let's relax,
0.5.
relax. But I feel like I'd be higher on him, 100%.
Well, what would that do for Ayuk?
Probably also increase his stock. I mean, he does become the number 1, right?
Yeah, on that team.
To
Yeah.
a guy that slings the ball a lot. So yeah, I mean, I imagine his stock soars to the roof.
Yeah, I was thinking about that earlier. I'm looking because there's a lot of rumors going around Brandon Ayuk right now, and I'm like, where would he go? He could be a draft day trade. Where would he go? And I thought of the Bills. I'm like, that would be dangerous. That'd be so much fun. But we'll see. Who knows? Maybe it'll come true. Maybe I can will it into existence.
There we go.
We'll have to see what powers I might have. But last guy here, we're gonna finish off with Ramondre Stevenson on the Patriots. This is the first season we're going to have the Patriots in a long time without Bill Belichick on as a head coach. It's going to be a whole new team, could be a new identity. He's someone who everyone loved 2 years ago and thought last year, this is it. He's the guy. Belichick even has to see that and, dealt with a couple injuries and situation changed and that team just sucked last year. So is this a team where you think that they're going to try to draft another running back? Like this could be a dark horse to get one of the top guys potentially. What do you guys think?
I don't know. I think they need so many pieces that I don't think running back. At least they have Ramondre Stevenson. I don't think that's even on their radar. They need a quarterback. They need wide receivers. They need a whole new freaking team over there. So I think running back's the least of their concerns. I don't see them taking running back just because they need so many other pieces.
You know who they could really use? Tom
Daniel
Brady.
Jones.
Tom Brady.
I'll give you Daniel Jones if that's what it takes. Here, take him.
That's so true.
Have fun.
They need to fix so many things. I will say this. besides their first overall pick will most likely be it will be the quarterback, 100%, without a doubt in anyone's mind. Anything after that, who knows? I don't envy the situation. I don't want to know the situation. All I'm gonna say is that at least they have Stevenson, and it probably won't be him. I will say that no one's job is probably safe to a very good degree. It is very up in the air. Would it surprise me if they took a running back? A little, but I could see it depending on draft position and what they took before. So we'll see. They'll be probably one of the biggest surprises because truthfully, who knows? They have so many things to fix.
Oh yeah, that they do. Is Juju still there? I think so, right?
Yes.
He's still there? Yeah.
Yep. I was
Doesn't
a
really do
regret.
much, but
He's too busy exposing himself in the car and posting it online.
yeah, I saw
So
that.
true.
Why
true.
can't we just be better? Why is it so difficult? Just be better, people. You get this opportunity. You just got to be a buffoon. But oh well, can't do anything about it. So, well, that's going to wrap up the show. But before we get going, we have been working on a couple things behind the scenes on the podcast, and what we're going to do next week for the draft is, if you guys are around, please come hang out with us. We're going to be doing a live stream on Discord, a little bit of a watch party. You can get our instant reactions, have a little fun, ask us questions. I will be posting that to our socials. So you can join the Discord there. You can follow the show on X at the Heroes FF. And, we're going to do it. We're going to try to stream it live on YouTube as well. So we're going to do that. And then we also have another fun surprise that we're going to do for the day 2. So I'm not going to tell you what we're going to do. You'll have to tune in and find out because it's going to be fun. But all right. Well, thanks for tuning in again. Hope you had a fun time listening to us talk about all the guys that are going to change in draft value going into this year. Some we're going to be watching a little closer than others. Some are going to personally hurt us, and some we're going to be able to kind of yell at our league mates and say, haha, it sucks for you. So come join us for that. 1 week away, baby, everyone. Let's go. So long, everyone.
See you around.
Thank you again for tuning in to another episode of the Heroes of Fantasy Football podcast. Follow us on Twitter at the Heroes FF.